So I'm Lori Coleman. I'm the Director of Strategy for DemCast. I am coming to you from the red state of Tennessee. So I definitely feel the pain. We have the both sides of the spectrum, with Nick being in the very blue and me being in the very red. And, Michigan being, I guess it's blue, but it's wavered, it's definitely a swing state, right? So it's important that we keep Michigan blue. And so we understand, how that messaging is important. The way that we message things is important to be able to reach, multiple people and kind of where they're at. And I'm thrilled that Jill is able to join us. Jill is our lead for Twitter for Michigan. So she, if you have not joined our Michigan team yet,
join us.
You need to. And Nick, if you'll just drop in the demcast.com/join link. If you haven't already signed up for that, we will add you to the Twitter room if you have a Twitter. Hopefully after tonight, you will have a Twitter. But we will be talking about how to use Twitter. And just a quick kind of show of hands. Do you already have a Twitter account? Yes. Marie? Yes. Babette? Just, you can wave, you can put up your hand. That just helps us know kind of where we're starting. So if you're already familiar, with the platform, there's a lot of people who use the platform every day, but don't know what it does. So hopefully we're going to teach you some tips and tricks about how to manage that. And then Charles is our amazing leader on the ground there in Michigan, helping to corral Facebook and Twitter and, in real life kind of things. We're going to have to coax him over to Twitter. But he is very committed and to making sure that we own the message that's out there for Michigan. Whether it's in print, in person, on social media, we want to see that spread. Jill, Charles, anything else you want to say?
No, I just appreciate people showing up tonight and looking forward to get the recording, because a number of people wanted to be here and requested same. I'm also going to remind people, or maybe you're not aware of this, I'm going to be interviewing Lori and Nick and the other co-founder of DemCast, Jamie, on the 9th. You'll get an invitation, and it's not going to be so much instructional as we're going to find out a little bit more about these amazing people and what prompted them to do this, a little bit about them personally. And since I've had an opportunity to talk to them already about it, I assure you it's going to be an interesting show. So I hope you can make it on the 9th.
That's great. Jill, any?
I'll just add, because I want to get on with the program, but just that I recently joined as the Michigan captain for the Twitter team room, but I've been a DemCaster pretty much since Nick really started bringing people on board for the earlier elections. And before that, I was screaming into the void and absolutely doing everything wrong, amplifying all the bad people and not really accomplishing anything. So what you're going to learn tonight is great. And it's really changed how I do things on any social media now. And I think you're going to get a lot of good stuff out of it. And you'll really start to see an impact in how you can further the cause of reclaiming our democracy.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I will be glad to send out this short little PowerPoint that we're going to talk through tonight. Nick and I will do this just more conversationally. All of you have started your Twitter, so that is the first step. So some things to know about when you do start your account, and again, there's no manual for this really. You have to kind of learn as you go. When you sign up for Twitter, Twitter automatically sort of gives you your username, which is your @ and what's after that. Most of the time, Twitter gives you, like if Nick signed up, his username would probably be @Nick679236. Okay. You don't have to stick with that. You can change that at any time. And it doesn't change the people who are following you. The only thing it does is that you may have people who don't recognize your name, your username anymore. But everybody who's already following you on your current account will still be there. It's really important to add your name, a picture, a biography, and a banner to your account. And that's because, particularly on Twitter, people follow other people that they have things in common with. And with your bio, it tells people something about you. And you can change your bio as often as you want. I used to change mine about every month or so till I got lazy. But it could be something, not revealing, but personal about yourself, just what's important to you. If you don't have a bio and you don't have a picture, most people won't follow you. And if you're just there to sort of, like I was prior to 2017, I was just there to like snoop on celebrity stuff. That's fine. But if you want to get involved and you want people to follow you, then you need to represent yourself. And then the other thing that we want to, just from a security standpoint, we encourage you to authorize two-factor verification. And that just means that if you log in from a different device, it asks you about your identity. People have their accounts hacked all the time, lose their account. And it's really hard to get anything back from Twitter as far as, if you have a problem with your account, they really don't have a customer service group per se. Or maybe they have one person, but that's all. Any questions about that?
So Lori asked, does the picture have to be of you?
No.
Yeah, and I'd say no, it does not, for sure. I think it's important to not just have the the stock image that comes with a Twitter account, but some people have their dog, some people have a beach. It kind of doesn't matter. You just not having the stock photo is great. I do think that if you're willing to have your face, I think that it does help somewhat in terms of just creating community and having people feel comfortable, like believing that you're a real person and that kind of thing. But it's definitely not a must at all. And we have plenty of DemCasters who don't have their personal pictures up there.
And you don't have to have your whole name as your name either. I mean, it could be Nick in Oregon or Lori in Tennessee. So, you don't have to tell your whole personal story, but just enough so people tend to think that you're a person. And the reason it's important to change that, the random number assignment, is that when you have people who have bot farms, that they're going on and creating accounts through a computer, just so they can probably drive misinformation. We saw this a lot from Russia's troll farms, where it was all automated. They don't have time to put in a picture or change their name. And so if you have those numbers, it's suspicious to people that you're a real person. So that's why I would say, change that. Laura, you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know what a banner is. Is that like where you have Black Lives Matter around yourself? And I don't know how to do that.
No, let me show you. So here's my Twitter profile. This at the top is the banner. This is my profile picture. And then here's my bio. So when you go to edit profile, that's where you can change your banner. So you see it has a picture here. So I could go in and pick another picture that I have and put it here. This is where also I can change my photograph. I can change my name. And I think you can have like 160 characters here. So you see people saying like Lori Coleman is standing up for voting rights. And that's the sort of thing you can change all the time. And then your bio, you are limited on your characters here of 160 characters for your bio. I don't think your name is 160. Oh, it's 50 characters for your name.
Yeah, it's 50. Yep.
You can disclose your location if you want to. If you have a website that you want to drive people's to, you can do that. And then you hit save and it's upgraded. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about building your followers. The first question is, why do you care who follows you or how many people follow you? It's just a vanity thing. Well, it isn't, because the more people who follow you, the more people see your messaging. And when you're sharing your message and you want to spread messaging and you want it to be seen, it's important for you to have people who follow you. Now, does it mean that you can't make a difference if you only have 100 followers? No. If you're reaching those 100 people, let's say you're in Michigan and the 100 people that follow you are people who are activists in Michigan, then you could make a lot of difference. So it's not that the number of followers makes it critical, but it does help spread the messaging, okay? And so you want, in our case, we want followers who will take action when we ask them to. So some ways to do that are to look and follow local organizations or individuals. So there's probably a Twitter account for, I know there's a Twitter account for the Michigan Democratic Party. And you can see under there the people who are engaging with their content. And those are people that, you know, you might want to follow and that you would hope that they would follow you back. Knowing the state influencers or the national influencers. So, you know, who are the movers and shakers in your state? Knowing your state hashtag. And so I bring this up because it varies from state to state about what is the most used. So I did a little investigation to see if I could see what was getting the most traction from Michigan. And this is a website called socialbearing.com. And I put in MIPOL. So that stands for Michigan politics. Sometimes it is the word politics. Sometimes it's MI-leg, like for legislation. But it's usually some variation of this that people tend to tag. And we'll talk a little bit more about the importance of that as we talk about what's in your tweets. But I just wanted to show you that when you put in a hashtag like Michigan poll, when you come down here, it'll give you the hashtags that frequently accompany that. And so if MI poll was in small little letters over here, but Michigan politics was big, then that's the hashtag that's getting the more use, okay? And just to point out, right there, right next to Michigan poll is DemCast MI. So that's how we connect with content with our followers that are state specific, is we hashtag it with DemCast and the two abbreviation for state. And then I would say local politicians, you a lot of them will follow you back, especially if you engage with their content. And Nick, you have anything else?
Yeah, no, I think just that advice, just go and, find some content creators or accounts who are of interest to you, who kind of share your perspective, or who have an important voice in the state, or just in general, and then go down and look at who's commenting and interacting with those people, and that's usually a good way to just spot folks.
And so as you're wanting to build your following, one thing that you can do, you can follow somebody and they don't have to follow you back, and they will get a notification that you followed them. So the way to sort of get their attention a little bit more is to like or retweet or comment on some of their most recent tweets, and then follow them, because part of the Twitter experience is you get notified when people are interacting with your information. So they would get 3 or 4 notifications that, hey, this person seems really interested in what I'm doing. Now, you can look at the person to see if it's likely that they'll follow you back by just looking at their ratio. Are they following 10 people and 1 million people follow them? They're not going to follow you back. Okay. Unless you're Joe Biden and you follow them. A lot of, like the governor, the true political accounts, like the governor's account and those things, those don't usually follow the activists back, but sometimes the candidates will do that. All right. Let's see.
Lori, you want to jump in with a question?
Yes.
Sorry, I tried to type and for some reason I can't type in the chat right now. There's somebody I follow, I don't know what her name is, maybe Nicole or something. There's somebody who's a liberal tweeter, and she always offers to boost accounts. Is that a good thing to do, or is that leave you open to just getting followed by people you don't want to be followed? Do you have thoughts about that?
Well, when the resistance sort of emerged on Twitter, there was a group that did what they called follow back resistance, which is basically all the resistance accounts wanting to follow each other to make our voices bigger. And that rapidly got taken over by trolls and bad actors. So I still see people do that, but we generally encourage you not to do that. Now, as far as saying, Nicole says, hey, here's 10 accounts I think you should be following. That's a little bit different. We would just recommend that when you are looking at your followers, that you don't have, right-wing people or, trolls or bots who are following you. And a lot of times you'll see that happen when you see it, like a party of build our followers kind of thing. So I hope that makes sense.
I think it's Natalie Jacoby is her name. Jacoby. So anyway, thank you. That helps.
Absolutely. So on my screen, I just typed in Michigan poll, and the top post is Mr. Knudsen here. And you can see we've got the MI poll here. And then it looks like ResistBot is using MI poll. Now, one thing I will say about MI poll is that it is nonpartisan. So both sides can use it. So it's not necessarily something that you type in and you go through and retweet everything without looking at it. Okay. All right. And then the last thing about really your account here is you can pin a tweet at the top. So if you don't know who I am and you see me post something and you want to find out more about me and you go to my profile, you'll see my account, and then you'll either see my most recent post or you'll see the thing I have pinned to the top. And you can do this for any post that is yours. If you've retweeted something, you can't pin it. But on your account, at the 3 dots here at the top of the tweet, there's the option to pin it to your profile. Okay. And I recommend that because I think it gives you another opportunity to tell people who you are, right? Helps tell the story.
And that pinned tweet does have to be a native tweet from you.
Yes.
You can't pin somebody else's tweet that you retweeted or whatever. It has to be something from Lori or something from Nick. And
Right.
yeah, I agree. I recommend pinning a tweet. I think it can like find something that really, like Lori did here, it kind of says who you are and what you're about, and just and that way when somebody comes to your profile to check you out, that it has, you're presenting the you that you want to be presented to them, I guess.
And you can change that as often as you want.
Yep. Yep.
It's really easy to change. You don't even have to unpin it. You just can choose another pin. And when you pin it, it goes to the top.
Hmm.
All right. Let's talk about the Twitter algorithm a little bit. If you're on our Facebook training, we talked about Facebook's algorithm. Twitter's algorithm is a little bit different. So it measures, and if you have your post, you can look at any one post. You can look to see what it generated. So down here, you can see we've got 9 comments, 119 retweets, 254 likes. This would just be the share button. And this is the analytics. So we'll look at this because it'll make more sense as we're talking about the algorithm. So you'll kind of see what it is. So replies, anytime someone engages in any way with your tweet, Twitter counts it. And the more engagements you have, the higher you're ranked in the algorithm. So impressions are the number of times people could have seen this tweet on Twitter. The total engagements, any way that they interacted with this, 674 engagements. And these are the ways that they could have interacted. They could have liked it. They could have opened it up and seen more detail about it. They could have retweeted it. They could have clicked on a link. They could have clicked on my profile. They could have clicked on the hashtag, and then they could have replied. All of those things feed the Twitter monster that is the Twitter algorithm. And on Twitter, you get more credit the faster you have more engagement. So Facebook is different. Facebook's post, it's not uncommon to be going through your news feed and see something from a day, 5 days ago, a week ago. That never happens on Twitter. The average lifespan of a tweet, does anyone want to guess?
I'll guess under an hour.
It is under an hour.
10 minutes.
15 minutes. Yeah. Now, it can live longer than that. If you get a lot of retweets, you might even see one from yesterday, right? Typically won't get much seen after that. So it's very much in the moment, in the now. So we do a lot of timed events on Twitter where people are saying, okay, I'm going to get on at this time and I'm going to post now this content, this hashtag, because Twitter rewards the talk about that subject in a small period of time. Okay. So that produces the trending list on Twitter. Okay. What else? just from an account standpoint, Twitter will rank your information. Like no matter what I tweet, it will give me a leg up because I have fewer people that I am following than I have followers, because they think that people who are driving the narrative get more followers. And it's a weird thing. So at least you want to be equal. You want to have the same amount following that you have followers. Now, when you first start your account, that might not happen. You may go out and follow 100 people and you only have 2 followers, right? But as you progress, you want to keep it level. And one of the reasons is because there is a 5,000 follow cap, around 5,000. So you can follow as many accounts as you want to 5,000. And after that, you've got to have at least 5,000 people following you for you to follow anymore. So it's best from the very beginning to sort of keep those even. Nick, you got anything else on that?
Yeah, just I think the bigger a lot of people sometimes get frustrated with me because I don't automatically follow back. I have 215,000 followers. So of course I don't automatically follow back because I'd just be sitting there all day following people back and vetting profiles and all that kind of stuff. I have about maybe a 10-to-1 ratio of, I have, for every 1 person that I follow, I have 10 people who follow me. And just the bigger that ratio is, the more Twitter will rate your account as a quality account that should be where your content should be shown to more people. So I get bumped up in the algorithm because I have a bigger ratio. Like Lori said, you can't start out that way. And Lori Coleman said you can't start out that way. Lori, who's joined us here, made a really nice comment that, or it was Jill. Yeah, it was Jill. That just the quality matters. You know, if you're constantly sharing junk, people aren't going to be interested in your account. So like, you know, taking the time to post meaningful stuff that is really reflective of your perspective and how you feel and seems genuine, that's how you really build a following. And sharing news that people find to be important, and retweeting people who have quality content, you know. So if somebody goes to your profile and they scroll down and they see like, oh, this person actually brings a great perspective, oh, they're sharing news, you know, that matters to me, and the stuff and the other people's stuff that they're sharing and retweeting is really high quality. Even if you don't follow them back, they may just follow you because they want to get your stuff in their feed, you know. And that's really how you build big on Twitter, is by focusing on that quality. I think a lot of the sort of follow back resistance type folks just do a lot of like quote tweeting each other, you know, replying to each other saying, "You're awesome. No, you're awesome." And when I see an account like that, I'm like, I don't really need to see that stuff in my feed. I'm not really interested in that. And so I probably would be less inclined to follow somebody back if that's mostly what they're sharing about. So
Laura has a question about liking. Is liking too much stuff bad? No, you can like as many things as you want to. You know, a lot of times when I'm looking at an account to see like, are they a person? I'll say, oh, they have 500 tweets. So I don't know if you saw, but at the top of my profile, it says how many tweets that have come from my account, and it's 168,000. If you went to likes, I have 193,000 likes. So one of the things that I will look for is if they have 500 tweets, but they have 10,000 likes, that tells me that they're on the platform, but they don't know how to message themselves, right? Because they're going through and liking things and but not posting their own thing. And I think that's probably the biggest way that you make a change is you share your voice. You know, what do I think about this? Why do I think this is important for other people to know? And so let's get into like what makes a good post. Nick is the king of messaging. I'll let him talk a little bit about this. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you. What makes a good post? I first of all, kind of what I was getting at, you know, having an original take on something, a genuine response is important. Hang on just one sec.
It's got to get those kids to be quiet.
Little data action there. So yeah, being genuine, having, you know, sharing original takes, not focusing on. So one thing that I found really helpful when I started tweeting more when I first joined was something that people appreciate is if you find just a news article that that is relevant, that people should know about, that people should read. I have a secret. They're not going to read it. People don't read. People don't read. So if you go and read that, and then you share the link to the article, and then just summarize it, like summarize the key points and why it matters. People really appreciate that, and that's something that people will follow you for, because you're informing them. But B, it's a nice way to sort of get into the native posting, like not just doing retweets or likes, but like posting your own content, because it's a little bit less. You're not necessarily putting yourself out there as much when you're sharing news in that way. And it's also really important to boost news and truth in digital spaces, because so much of what's happening online is just awful. So yeah, boosting news, keeping it concise. So there are 240 characters. You do not have to use all 240.
80 to 80. This is why he's the king. He never uses.
Oh, 280. 280. Yeah. So keep just saying only what you need to say to get your point across. There should not be too much blue in your tweet, ironically, because we're the blue team, right? But when you share something on Twitter and you have a hashtag, or you include somebody's Twitter handle, like the @ handle, in the tweet, those two things, hashtags and @ handles, appear in blue, whereas the regular text appears in black. The more blue there is in a tweet, the more people are just going to scroll past it, because it's like, oh, there's a lot going on in that. I don't want to try and figure out what all that means, or who all those people are, or what all those hashtags mean. So trying to stick to, oh, there you go, right there. So the one on the left is not a great strategy for native posting. If you want to share that flood the phones graphic, that's a good graphic. That's a call to action. That's really great. but share it with a message like, it's really important that everybody calls their senators today. We have to get blah, blah, blah passed, or the GOP will blah, 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 hashtag freedom to vote act, or whatever it is that you're doing. And then if you want to then tag people to notify them of your message, you could reply to your own tweet and tag people, so that the tags are the at handles are appearing in the reply, not in the original tweet, because that's just not going to get amplified very much if it's all blue and tags and hashtags. So just focus on just good, truthful, quality takes, and your individual takes on things, informing people about things, trying to keep most of the text black with one hashtag, maybe two hashtags, if you're going to use one. That's my initial round of advice. Lori, do you have stuff to add?
We're going to send out the presentation, and these tips are in that. From a hashtag perspective, so hashtags are the way that content or subjects are connected on Twitter. So if you want to see what's happening in Michigan politics, you would go in and you would type in Michigan, MIPOL, and you could see from both sides what's the most recent thing that's been posted and what's the top few things that people are talking about. So even if you have a small account, if you're using a hashtag, people who don't follow you but are looking at the hashtag will then see your information. And so that is a way to sort of break out of, your followers. Facebook really doesn't have this. And so from a way to kind of reach across to other people, that is a way to connect people, even if you don't follow them. Typically, we don't recommend more than 2 hashtags. 1, if you can get away with it. 2 if you need to, but please don't put a bazillion hashtags. I recommend that just when you're writing your post that you split it up so that you create some space in there. If it's just a big chunk of text, even if it's black, people won't read it. And what Nick was talking about the article sharing, I did that in the morning and every morning and every night. Somebody's asking about scheduling for years. And I would schedule a tweet to go, I would write it the night before, and then I would schedule it to go out in the morning, about something that I found interesting that I thought people should know about. And if there was something that they needed to do. Jill started off talking about how frustrated she felt about like just screaming into the void. And a lot of what you see on Twitter is just, oh, that guy's terrible. Oh, they're awful. But what is that doing? If you're screaming at the GOP, they love it. They want you to be mad at them. So then we have to think, well, I'm mad about this. What can be done? And if somebody else is mad about it or should be mad about it, if they knew about it, what could they do? And so trying to find something to give an outlet to people, right? I don't think, just a flat regurgitation of the facts is engaging. So you need people to understand that this is why it's not just, oh, that's an interesting random fact. It's, oh, well, this is important. And we could do something about this. We could make a difference. So I think finding that hook. Also, if you're fairly new to posting, I'm not a writer I'm a healthcare worker by background. And so when I first started posting on Twitter, I just wrote whatever I wanted to write. I didn't care about the character count. And then I went back out and really what's the most important message in all of this? and picked that out and then just deleted all the other stuff, to try to get it down to as concise a message as you can. I think, good.
There are some questions that we can get into. So one, there's a couple here that are kind of around about tagging politicians. So is it effective? It is a way to communicate with your elected officials. Is it more effective than sending a letter? Probably not. There's two things that you're doing when you send a message and tag your electeds. One is you are trying to get their attention. And so for, I think for Marie's question, is it bad to tag all of them on one post? No, not necessarily. I mean, there are exceptions to my don't put too much blue rule. It can make a lot of sense sometimes to if you've got your two senators and your House rep, and maybe your local state senator and your state House rep, that's 5 people. If you have a concise enough message and maybe a graphic to go with it, that could be fine. It might not get amplified that much, but that might not be the purpose for you sending that out. You may be literally trying to communicate with your electeds, which is fine. I think the flip side is it's almost with rare exceptions, it's almost assuredly not your elected representative who's actually reading that. It's probably at best a staffer and potentially an unpaid intern. so there might be some registering of that message. They might say, oh yeah, a lot of people are Twitter and Facebook or people seem really concerned about XYZ issue. That may be sort of how they receive that. But the other thing that you're doing when other than just communicating directly with your elected, when you include them in a post, is the main audience in all likelihood is your followers and people who end up seeing the tweet because people interact with it. And so it's just good to keep in mind that the audience is almost global on Twitter. Like literally almost anybody could potentially see that tweet. And so, when framing whatever the issue is, or making the appeal that you want to make to your electeds, you can also be sort of modeling for other people. Oh, you should care about this too. Maybe you should contact your electeds about this issue. And you might, if you frame it right, you might be able to inspire them to do just that. So you always have the global audience that's potentially reading your tweets, and it's always a good thing to keep in mind as we try to sort of move people to action. I tweet at my senators and representatives from time to time, not like all the time, but sometimes. Of course, I'm in a super blue state, and I have Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley and Earl Blumenauer, so mostly it's to thank them for doing stuff, but that's good too. So
yeah, they don't hear that nearly enough. We're like, okay, great, you did this stuff. What have you done for me lately? Or now I want you to do XYZ. And when you're thinking about your posting a video or a graphic or a GIF can really help add context. And the majority of the time, the posts that have some sort of graphic along with it get more impressions. So it's about 50% more impressions when you have a photo, and it's 100% more impressions when you have a video, because people will watch a short video on Twitter. So
and news links too, or just links also, just anything that you can add that's not just words. will help your message travel.
Right. I saw somebody put had a question about sharing an article that's behind a paywall. If you have access to that and you can share it and give a summary, then that's more than what the person would be able to access, if they were, not able to go through the paywall. So I encourage you to share that little summary. And some of the websites now will let you share one of the posts. If you're sharing on social, it'll let you, the person who's reading it, read the whole article. I think Washington Post does that. So that's something that you could then allow them to see that they wouldn't normally be able to see. I want to share my screen for just a minute because I'm posting a few tips here. So here's a graphic. So it's just a picture. And some options you have here, you would want to write your story here. Why is this important? Personalize it. As a kid, I didn't have to worry about where my next meal was coming from. And the thought that America's children are going hungry, it hurts my heart, and it should not happen. That's why we need to pass this legislation. Just a simple something like that. That really, or maybe as a kid you did go hungry, and how awful it was. So there's that, and now you've got a picture that goes along with it. Under here where it says tag people, if people allow photo tagging, and including your senators and representatives, because a lot of them don't know that they can turn that off, you can photo tag whoever you want to. So here's my lovely senator. She's too dumb to know she can turn that off. But instead of it having her taking up characters, you can tag up to 10 people in a straight photograph. Not a video and not a GIF, but in a photo, you can tag them. And they will get a notification if they're paying attention that they've been tagged in that. Okay. So it is one way, again, to have other people see your posts. You might put Alyssa Milano in there and, she might see your post and retweet it or something. You can also add a description of it. And what this is for screen readers. So the people who are visually impaired and can't see the picture, it would just give them, say, a child in line for food, so you can do that as well, which is very nice. And then also you can limit who replies. So if you're currently getting attacked by trolls over something, you can just say, well, only the people I mentioned can reply. That won't stop them from quote tweeting or taking a picture of your tweet, but it will at least keep them out of your notifications. All right. And then let's see. I don't know why it's not letting me do it.
Because you have to type something.
Oh, blah. Yep.
No?
You can also put emojis. I was looking for the
Huh.
thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
Let me try this card. So when you have a post, this little calendar thing will pop up and you can schedule your post to go out whenever you want to. So that makes it really easy if you're participating in a Twitter storm and you know what the hashtag is. You can go ahead and write your own post ahead of time and schedule it to go out whenever the Twitter storm is happening. You can also do that from our toolkit.
The only thing I'd say about scheduling tweets is, like we said before, sort of the life of a tweet is 15 minutes out on average. This is a very kind of, the trends are changing all the time. The conversation on Twitter is changing all the time. So the more, the people who are on the platform all the time and always talking about the things that are trending, you might notice that they get followers faster, because they're sort of always they're more present in the algorithm, because they're taking part in the Twitter conversation. You know, I try and do 1 or 2 tweets a day that are adjacent to the Twitter conversation, to whatever's trending or a news story that just broke or something like that, because it does help to keep your account favorable in the Twitter algorithm, even if it's not like the issue that you care the most about. I think the trick with that is not falling into the trap of like with the Lauren Boebert stuff today, and how she's is an Islamophobic, horrible, terrible person. So she was in the conversation today, but I don't want to boost her more. You know, I don't want to help her become more famous for being terrible. And the more the people on the left are boosting her, the more she sends notes to her email list saying, "Oh, the liberals are attacking me. I need your money." And then she gets more famous and more powerful, and it's just this terrible feedback loop that we keep getting stuck in. So, you know, picking and choosing which trends and which stories you want to connect to is important. And what I've been doing in those moments, like that one today, I don't remember exactly what I shared, but I didn't say anything about her specifically. I said something along the lines of, in 2020, 81 million of us came out to veto hatred and incompetence, and now the GOP is doubling down on hatred and incompetence, or something like that. So I'm basically like alluding to the conversation that's happening, but without like boosting Lauren Boebert's profile any more than
That's called subtweeting, if you want to know the name for it. It's when you talk about something without talking about it. Yeah. And everybody knows that's what you're talking about usually.
and it's really important for our purposes for fighting disinformation. Right. You don't, like we were talking about with interactions, right? If you go in, if Lauren Boebert says something really terrible and you go in and reply to her tweet, you're actually boosting her tweet in the algorithm so that more people are going to see it, which is very unhelpful. And then if you continue to interact, you know, in replies with that tweet, or if you quote tweet it or whatever, it just adds to the fire. And more people see it, and more people get enraged, and then we have outrage fatigue and all this stuff. So, it is important for our purposes in fighting disinformation to try and avoid.
A couple of questions, if I may. Since I see sure. we're running out of time here. When would you recommend using Twitter as opposed to, say, Facebook or Instagram? Are they totally complementary and ought to be doing both simultaneously, or something's better done on Twitter, something's better done on Facebook?
I think that there are different the platforms can be complementary, and I think sometimes it's totally appropriate. Like when we do a Twitter storm, a lot of times I'll post the content on both, right? Because it's whether it's a Facebook friend of mine or a follower on Twitter, it's something that I want people to see, right? I think Twitter is more topical. It's more news oriented in some ways, and it's where the politicians and the press are. So there's a unique opportunity on Twitter to drive the narrative and to sort of get ideas out into the ether, so that they can travel. And a lot of people who are on Twitter are on other platforms. They're on TikTok, or they're on Facebook, and they're on Instagram, and they'll take that idea, that nugget of an idea that they see on Twitter, and they'll go and share it over on other platforms. So I think I think of Twitter as kind of a catalyst for messaging in a way that other platforms aren't, because Twitter's flat, Twitter's global. It's anybody can see a tweet that's in a trend, or if one of my followers retweets something that I tweet, and somebody who follows them sees it, that person may be somebody who's like totally not in my world in any way, who's seeing my content. Whereas on Facebook, it's way more relationship based, and it's more about personal networks. So I think, it's helpful to think about, like, who are you trying to influence? Who are you trying to talk to? And what's the message that you're sending? Is it more of a global message, or is it more of a community-based message? Community-based messages can still do well, especially, if you use the sort of like Michigan Paul hashtag, or the DemCast Michigan. You can use hashtags on Twitter to connect with a geographic community or with an issue-based community, but it's not as local as Facebook is. So that would be the major distinction from my perspective. Lori, do you have and I think Instagram I would put in the same bucket as Facebook.
Yeah, I think so. I would just say the hyper local things, like Chuck, we did the Chelsea elections, city council elections. That probably would not travel very far on Twitter. What I have done though is try to make people understand that why, it might be something like local elections matter, and they matter, more to your daily life. And then I might say, look at this person, she's running for city council. So on Twitter, that message kind of has to come across as, why should I care about this random city council, race in Michigan? But, if the beginning resonates with you, then you can get more traction. But I think those hyper local issues are probably best coordinated and promoted on Facebook.
I hesitated to ask this question because I assume that most everybody here is much more knowledgeable than myself, but I'm going to ask one naive question. What are rooms and what are they good for?
All right, well, I'll just show you because it's easier to show than to. So just like you can have groups on Facebook, you can have private message groups on Twitter. You call it, they are interchangeably used, called Twitter rooms, Twitter chats, Twitter groups. And so I will show you my screen.
And I know we'd said 1 hour. I'm totally able to stick around. If you need to drop off, we will keep recording. So if you got to go and be with family or whatever, totally understand. But we can keep rolling.
Often at 8, I get my warm milk and cookies.
So if you go to messages, just like you can instant message someone on Facebook, on the Facebook Messenger, you can message. I could send Nick a message, and it would just be between him and me, and nobody else would see it. But if I add another person to that, it becomes a chat that we can then add up to 75 people to. And that's how we organize. So for example, here's the Pennsylvania DemCast room. And so for here, people are talking about mostly
Dr. Oz.
Dr. Oz today.
Do we have that for Michigan, Jill?
We do.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, in at the height of the elections last year, we had, I think, 8 Pennsylvania rooms and probably the same number of Michigan rooms. So, it's just about, like, this is a great tweet right here. He voted no on the child tax credit, which left 4,000 kids out of poverty. So even that I'm not from Pennsylvania, that I think deserves to be shared, right? Because that is unbelievable, right? I think, but this is where you can talk to each other. This is where you can put your post in. So instead of us
Do
trying,
you have the Michigan room handy?
I can, well, I think I can find it. Let's see.
I thought I had a lot of rooms.
Oh, honey, don't even go there.
We're in all the states, all of them, plus a lot of others.
So right now, for some reason, occasionally I can't scroll back, and right now I can't scroll back to see what
Oh, that's weird.
this.
It happens to me in the browser too. It never happens to me on my phone, but sometimes in the browser.
Right. So this is awesome. Jill.
Chuck, we do have more out there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to want to follow up with you, Joe.
So
Last cycle I think we had like 2 or 3 Michigan rooms.
We're up to 4.
But
Yeah.
but over time, like people come and go. Like people, digital activists want to take breaks. They're sick of politics, so they sort of stop participating. So every once in a while, we'll condense the rooms to only the people who are still participating, and then people can always rejoin if they want to. So
yeah.
And we're hoping to add more rooms as people flood in for the 2022 election,
Exactly.
because we've got a lot of things to.
Yeah. Well, and we want to,
Michigan.
and with Jill's help, we want to ideally have quite a few Michigan rooms. It's a great way to build community and connect people across the state, and to help amplify each other's content. So I think beginning in early 2022, I think we'll really start to recruit again. To try and find folks, and a great way to do that, like we said before, is to go to people who are interacting with Haley Stevens tweets or Governor Whitmer's tweets or whatever. Just find people who seem like they're like-minded and go, message them if you can, or reply and say, hey, can we talk? We can all be doing that all the time on Twitter to try and grow our network.
And a lot of our DemCasters, they don't belong just to DemCast.
Right.
They belong to a lot of other grassroots organizations, and we all kind of symbiotically help promote the same thing. So
That's good, because we need a chorus of people who are drowning out the negative naysayers.
Yep.
So you guys have probably seen our toolkit. I thought it might be helpful just to go really quickly and show. So our toolkits, just depending on how we've set it up, are available on multiple platforms. But if I go to Twitter, it's going to show me the post. This is a DemCast Michigan. So
these are basically like pre-written, posts, if you haven't seen this before, that we a lot of times will pre-include a hashtag. There will be a link embedded, and it's just a way to sort of really quickly get important information out there by using sort of stock language that you can adapt, as Lori is right here, to sort of fit your voice.
So
Nice.
and then when I tweet it out, there it is. So that quick, I can have a post on Twitter. So if you don't want to write your own, you can go to DemCast Michigan's toolkit, and you can schedule a post from there once a day, just so that you're having consistent content.
one thing I've noticed about the scheduling from the toolkit is that if you customize the post and then schedule it, when you come back, it takes it all away.
You'll have to schedule it
Learned to
first.
schedule it first and then
Right.
come back and change the text.
Exactly. And I can't tell you how many times, even though I know that, I
I
forgot.
still do it too.
You just go down to the schedule. So I want this to go out tomorrow at 7 a.m. Confirm. And now I can
Adjust it. Yeah.
adjust it there. And then when I hit schedule, it'll be sent tomorrow morning. That's as easy as it is.
And once we really start rolling with DemCast Michigan, you know, our hope is that we'll have consistent, fresh content flowing into those toolkits. So every time you go there, there's new and more recent and relevant stuff to share. And some of it'll be evergreen, and you can share it no matter what, because it's like, here's how to register to vote in Michigan, and you can share that no matter what day or you know, what time you're sharing it. But
Right.
sometimes there will be, you know, stuff that we'll want to add that's more reflective of the news cycle or whatever. And so that, you know, in 2022, hopefully we'll be able to build to the point where we've got folks who are helping to keep that fresh.
Mhm. And let me, since we're on here, I'll just show you this one thing here. So you guys saw me post this, right? It's got 1 retweet and 4 likes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say share, send via direct message. Click there and hit that little down arrow share button. And now it's in the Michigan room with all the other Michiganders who have the opportunity to interact with that post. Okay.
Cool.
So it can be very easy, not labor intensive to participate, you know, in a direct message group. And then you can go in and check, you know, once a day. If you have time, it's something you could do standing in line at the grocery store. If you're not a hands-free driving state like Tennessee is, you could do it at the red light. Here you get a ticket. You know, when the commercials are on your favorite TV show, you can pop on and, you know, like and retweet and comment on people's stuff. I mean, that helps drive that narrative.
And the algorithm. So it's just good to remember that when you're interacting with other people's content, you're helping other people to see that more. So that can either be a bad thing in the Lauren Boebert case, or it can be a great thing in the case of sort of mutual amplification and digital activism. So don't hesitate if you see a post that you think is a really important makes a really important point, hit that like button, but also, you know, hit that retweet button or leave a comment, because that the more interactions it gets, the more times the algorithm will show it to other people.
So the question about the Twitter analysis. So if you go to a tweet that you made, then the impressions and engagements are about that tweet. So if you wrote a tweet and then you went to the engagements, it's about how many people interacted with that post. Okay, if that answers your question.
Yeah, this is Marie. So you should see my face, sorry. So I really love that website you show, because I'm trying to do is get better, because, you know, we're trying to promote the candidates so we can win in 2022. So I want my tweets to be better. And I am happy that I'm slowly getting more people to follow me, like those Michigan Senate Dems and other people. So then I thought, oh, this is like a great place for me to get better. So up on the top, when it says like impressions and total retweets, is that people retweeting my tweets, or is that me that I did 104,000? Because I'm thinking, holy crap, did I hit that enter key a lot? So
At the top of your profile, it's how many you did.
Mhm.
Wow, I am like way much on my phone too much.
Yes, yes. If you have screen time enabled on your phone like I do,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
hours I have spent on my screen, it's really a sad thing.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm on a lot trying to get things, but I'm like, holy cow, I have to like slow it down.
I know
This
that
this class
social
is so
bearing.
good. You guys are so cool.
Oh, thank you. We're really happy you could join. Lori, we could maybe just for one more thing, I know we're sort of running out of time, but we could show people on the web browser how to look at their own analytics.
Okay.
I know
really
on
quick.
that social bearing site, after a tweet storm, I'm just like, oh wow, look at me. It kind of makes you want to keep doing more and more. It's like an addiction.
Yep. That's what we're going for.
I know. You got me.
Okay,
So-
so this only works on your browser.
Can't do it in the phone app.
Yeah, if you go to more and then
Analytics, yeah.
so this will tell you how many in the last 28 days, how many tweets, these are actual original tweets that you did, what your impressions are, profile visits, and mentions. And it always tanks in November and December because of the holidays.
Well, and you're tweeting less, right?
I have been tweeting less.
Yeah.
But
so and then it'll show you month by month, like what your top tweet is, who your top follower was this month, you know, how many tweets you did, all that kind of stuff, month by month. And it's useful if you're really tracking things to see kind of what the ups and the downs are over the course of a year, because there is a pattern to it. So
like this,
I've also
in
been using that
October.
social bearing site just to
Mhm.
check my handle out and see how
Mhm.
I'm doing.
yep, social bearing is good too. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's good. Charles, you wanted to weigh in?
Oh, I just want to thank everybody for
good.
attending and of course, you good folks at DemCast for being our inspiration and our facilitator. We'll be doing more of these and I certainly learned from it. I'm going to be leaning on you, Jill, to
Well,
take me by
the
the hand and get set
Michigan
up.
Twitter captain learned a couple things too, so that's good.
That's
Okay,
good.
super. So I'll see some of you, hopefully many of you on the 9th, and we're going to have a good time. So
I want just to mention, there is an hour-long presentation on our YouTube channel just on writing tweets. So if you're really just geeking out over the messaging, feel free to take a look at that. That will expand on some of the things that we talked about tonight.
okay,
Good reminder.
making notes.
And Marie, since you're working with
Yes.
local candidates, you might be interested in a free account from Speechify. That is our social toolkit application that we use. And you can do you can do a campaign for free if you want to try it out. I'll drop that in chat for you.
Thank you guys so much. This has been like the best class ever. So thank you.
And I'm glad to have a face to see with your name. So now I see
Yeah,
you in our
definitely.
room.
Yeah, it's funny because I see you guys on Twitter all the time, and it is cool to see you guys.
Yeah.
We are real people.
We'll be
Yep.
seeing more of each other soon, I'm sure. So
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of work to do this year, so super excited to.
Whatever.
And the always open. You can always send a direct. Well, you can try sending a direct message.
just for anybody who's
Email
not,
us if you need us.
Yeah, email. Yeah.
Don't you saw what a
Yeah.
mess my messages are. Email us, nick@demcastusa.com. I'm Lori at demcastusa.com. We are much more likely to see
Right.
that and respond.
But first and foremost, reach out to your Twitter captain on the Twitter platform, and that's Jill.
and I just put my handle on the chat there. So
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yep,
Thank
good
you
night, all.
guys.
Thank
All
guys.
right.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.